When you stop talking to a woman, the very first thing she will do is test your silence. Women are highly intuitive and they notice shifts in energy quicker than you might think. If you were once consistent with your attention, your calls, or your presence, and suddenly that disappears, she feels it immediately. And instead of rushing straight in to ask what's wrong, she'll often test to see if your silence is intentional or if it's just a temporary lapse. This test isn't about games, it's about understanding where she stands with you and what your distance really means. At first, she might act as though nothing has changed. She'll carry on with her routine, but underneath the surface, she's paying close attention to your every move. Did you stop texting altogether? Did you ignore her last message? Did you pull back your energy in a way that feels different? These questions circle in her mind, and that's when the testing begins. She might send you something small, like a random emoji, a meme, or a casual hey. It's not about the content of the message. It's about seeing whether you respond and how you respond. Your reaction, or lack of it, tells her everything she needs to know about your intention. If you remain silent, she'll test further. Maybe she'll appear in places where she knows you'll see her. Maybe she'll like your social media posts after weeks of ignoring them. Or she'll post something herself designed to get your attention. It might be a picture, a quote, or even a subtle jab meant to spark a response. The testing grows in intensity because she's trying to break through your silence without directly admitting that she misses your presence. What's fascinating is that these tests reveal her emotional investment in you. If she didn't care, your silence wouldn't matter and she wouldn't even notice. But when she tests, it's proof that your absence has created a void. She's unsettled, curious, and maybe even a little frustrated that you're no longer giving her the attention she once relied on. Her actions are her way of trying to confirm if your silence is permanent or if it's just a strategy to see how she reacts. For you, this is a crucial moment of clarity. Her response to your silence exposes her true level of interest. If she tests your silence in subtle or obvious ways, it means you hold space in her mind and emotions. If she does nothing at all, then you already have your answer. She wasn't as invested as you may have believed. The beauty of silence is that it brings the truth to the surface without you needing to ask a single question. When you stop talking to her, her very first instinct will be to test whether your silence is real, and through those tests, you'll begin to see how much your presence truly means to her. When you stop talking to a woman, one of the most powerful things that happens is she begins to reflect on her feelings. Your silence creates a space she didn't expect. And in that silence, she has no choice but to look inward. Up until then, she may have taken your attention for granted, assuming you'd always be there, always reaching out, always giving her your energy. But when you suddenly step back, the noise quiets and she's left with her own thoughts. That's when the reflection begins. She starts replaying moments in her mind, your conversations, the way you treated her, the way you made her feel. Every little detail she once overlooked suddenly has new meaning. She thinks about how you showed up for her, the consistency of your presence, and even the times when you may have pulled her closer with your energy. In silence, she realizes the impact you had because it's no longer there. People rarely recognize the value of something until it's missing, and your absence becomes a mirror that forces her to examine how much you actually mean to her. And at first, this reflection can feel confusing to her. She may try to convince herself that it doesn't bother her, that she's fine without your attention. But as days pass and you still don't reach out, the reflection deepens. She starts asking herself questions. Why does it feel different now? Why do I miss his presence? Was I as invested as I thought, or did I overlook what he was giving me? These thoughts swirl, and in that process, she becomes more aware of her emotions toward you. This stage is critical because it's where clarity is born. If her feelings for you are real, your silence won't just be noticed, it will weigh on her. She'll feel the absence, not just mentally, but emotionally, like something important has been taken away. That emptiness forces her to evaluate how much she values you and whether she's willing to let you slip away. Reflection makes her realize if her connection with you is casual or if it's something she doesn't want to lose. On the other hand, if she reflects and feels nothing significant, that also tells you the truth. Your silence reveals whether her feelings run deep or whether you are just a passing presence in her life. Either way, the reflection process is unavoidable, because silence always makes people think harder than words ever could. This is why stepping back can be so powerful. It shifts the focus from you chasing her to her questioning herself. Instead of you wondering where you stand, she starts wondering where she stands with you. And once a woman starts reflecting on her feelings in your absence, the truth of her heart begins to surface. When you stop talking to her, your silence forces her into reflection. And in that space, she realizes exactly how much you matter or how much she's willing to let go. When you stop talking to a woman, one of the most common reactions you'll notice is that she will begin reaching out indirectly. Instead of sending a clear, straightforward message saying, I miss you, or why aren't you talking to me, she'll often choose subtle ways to get your attention. This is because deep down, she doesn't want to seem vulnerable or admit that your silence has affected her. So instead, she finds small, almost playful ways to remind you she's still there and to see if you're still paying attention. This indirect approach might come through a simple text that has no real purpose, something like, what are you up to? Or, hey, I just saw something that reminded me of you. It may seem casual on the surface, but behind those words is a deeper question. Are you still thinking about me? Sometimes she won't even message you directly. She'll do it through social media. You might notice her suddenly liking old photos, reacting to your posts, or even posting things you know you'll see. These aren't coincidences. They're signals designed to test if your silence is intentional and to lure you back into responding. Why does she do this? Because pride and emotion are at war inside her. On one hand, she doesn't want to admit she misses your presence, but on the other, she can't ignore the void your absence has created. Reaching out indirectly gives her a sense of safety. If you don't respond, she can play it off as casual. But if you do respond, she gets the reassurance she was quietly hoping for. It's a strategic way of protecting her ego while still bridging the gap your silence created. You'll often see her choose timing carefully. Maybe she'll send a message late at night when she's feeling more emotional, or she'll comment on something just as you start pulling away further. These indirect moves are her way of saying, I haven't forgotten about you, without fully exposing how much she's been thinking about you. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice that these signals usually increase the longer you stay silent. This behavior is powerful because it exposes just how much your presence impacts her. If she truly didn't care, she wouldn't bother reaching out in any form. She wouldn't like your photos, send those random texts, or find ways to slide back into your awareness. Her indirect efforts are proof that she values your attention, even if she doesn't come out and say it directly. The choice you have in that moment is whether or not to engage. But either way, her behavior tells you something important. Your silence has stirred emotions she can't ignore. And in her own way, she's reaching out to break through it. When you stop talking to her, she may not admit it openly, but her indirect attempts to grab your attention reveal that your silence has made her miss you more than she wants to show. When you stop talking to a woman, one of the most telling things she will do is check if you've moved on. Silence makes her curious, and that curiosity can quickly turn into a quiet obsession. Even if she tries to act like she doesn't care, her mind will start asking questions she can't ignore. Why did he stop reaching out? Is he interested in someone else? Has he already forgotten about me? These thoughts run on repeat, and the lack of answers drives her to search for clues. She might start with the most obvious way, looking at your social media. Suddenly she's viewing your stories more often, liking your posts again, or even lurking without interacting. Every picture you post, every comment you make, every person you engage with becomes a piece of evidence she's trying to interpret. If you appear happy, confident, and unbothered, it raises even more questions in her mind. Is he doing better without me? Who's making him smile like that? That curiosity keeps her hooked even when she tries to convince herself she's over it. Sometimes she'll go even further. She might ask mutual friends about you, trying to get updates without making it obvious she's still invested. She may casually bring your name up in conversation, pretending it's nothing serious, but deep down, she's fishing for information. And if she hears that you're giving your attention to someone else, that's when her emotions can really get stirred. She might feel jealousy, regret, or even a sense of panic. at the thought of losing you to another woman. This checking behavior isn't just about curiosity, it's about reassurance. She wants to know where she stands in your life without directly asking. If she sees you've moved on, it forces her to confront her true feelings about you. If she sees that you haven't, it gives her the comfort of believing she still has space in your world. Either way, the act of checking itself is proof that she cares more than she's willing to admit. What's interesting is that women who seem the most detached on the surface are often the ones who check the most in private. Outwardly, she may act like she's completely fine, but behind closed doors, she's scrolling through your profile, replaying old conversations, or noticing who you're spending time with now. That hidden curiosity is a reflection of the impact your silence has created. For you, this is valuable insight. If she's still checking, still watching, still trying to figure out where you stand, it means she hasn't let go emotionally. Your absence has created a pull that keeps her invested even when she doesn't say a word. When you stop talking to her, her curiosity about whether you've moved on becomes a powerful sign that your silence has left a mark she can't ignore. When you stop talking to a woman, one of the strongest reactions you may see is that she will either chase or withdraw. This point is where her true feelings really show themselves. Silence is a test of emotional depth, and how she responds to it reveals whether her investment in you is real or surface level. Some women will begin to pursue you, finding reasons to reconnect, while others will pull back completely, protecting their pride and ego above all else. If she chooses to chase, it won't always be obvious or dramatic. She might start small, sending you messages more often, initiating conversations, or finding excuses to reach out that don't look too direct. Maybe she suddenly remembers to ask about something you mentioned weeks ago, or brings up a random topic just to get your attention. Chasing doesn't always mean she's blowing up your phone. It can also mean she's making subtle moves to pull you back in. Social media becomes another tool here. She may post things designed to catch your eye, like pictures where she looks her best, or quotes about missing people, love, or regret. Every little action is a quiet way of saying, notice me, respond to me, I don't want to lose you. On the other side, there are women who withdraw. For them, silence hits their pride harder than their heart. They feel the void, but instead of chasing, they step back even further, choosing to mirror your behavior. This doesn't mean they don't care. It often means they care too much, but don't want to risk rejection. By withdrawing, they protect themselves from looking vulnerable or desperate. In their minds, chasing you might confirm that they value you more than you value them, and that's something their ego won't allow. Both responses are telling. If she chases, you learn she doesn't want to let the connection fade without a fight. If she withdraws, you see that her pride is stronger than her willingness to open up. And while it may sting to watch someone pull away, it gives you the clarity you need. Silence doesn't just test her, it reveals her priorities. Is she willing to put her heart on the line, or does she prefer to hide behind her defenses? Either way, your silence acts as a filter. It forces her to show her true self. A woman who values you deeply will find a way to close the gap, even if it's subtle. A woman who doesn't will fade into the background, confirming that she was never as invested as you might have thought. When you stop talking to her, she will either chase your attention or withdraw to protect her pride, and whichever path she chooses will reveal just how much you truly matter to her. When you stop talking to a woman, the silence does more than create distance. It reveals the truth of her interests. This is the final stage where her actions speak louder than anything she could ever say. Words can be disguised, feelings can be hidden, and attention can be played off as casual, but silence strips away all the noise. In the quiet space you create, her real intentions surface. If she genuinely cares, she will find a way to show it. Maybe she'll reach out, maybe she'll test your silence, or maybe she'll look for subtle ways to draw you back into her world. It doesn't matter whether it's bold or subtle. The key is that she makes an effort. Genuine interest always pushes people to act, even when their pride tries to hold them back. A woman who truly values your presence won't allow silence to stretch on forever without making a move. She might struggle with vulnerability, but the fear of losing you outweighs the comfort of staying quiet. On the other hand, If she doesn't feel the same level of connection, your silence won't bother her. She won't check up on you, she won't wonder where you went, and she won't attempt to re enter your space. Instead, she'll let the silence continue, and her lack of effort becomes the clearest answer you could ask for. This may be hard to accept, but it's also liberating because it gives you the truth without confusion. You no longer have to wonder how she feels. Her actions, or lack of them, tell you everything. This is why silence is such a powerful tool. It eliminates the need for endless questions, overthinking, or trying to read between the lines. It forces authenticity. A woman who's interested will not stay silent for long. A woman who isn't will fade into the background, showing you her place in your life was never as strong as you may have believed. Either outcome is valuable because it frees you from uncertainty. It's also important to remember that silence doesn't create feelings. It only reveals the ones that were already there. If she was truly invested, she'll be pulled back toward you naturally. If she wasn't, your absence won't disturb her. And that way, silence is like a spotlight shining on the truth. It doesn't manipulate her or force her hand. It simply brings her real emotions to the surface. At the end of the day, this clarity is what makes silence so effective. You don't have to beg for attention. You don't have to demand answers. And you don't have to chase. By stepping back, you allow her to show you whether your presence in her life actually matters. And once you see her response, you know exactly where you stand. When you stop talking to her, the silence itself reveals the truth. Whether she values you enough to bridge the gap or whether she's willing to let you go without a second thought,